Throughout history, man has held many holidays in honor of his gods. The chief of these gods was the sun, referred to by many different names in various cultures. The story of the sun god can be traced back to the Tower of Babel, and to Nimrod, his wife Semiramis, and her son Tammuz. From Babel, which later became Babylon, the pagan religion spread to all the pagan religions of the world. With the spread of the pagan religion came also the spread of the pagan holidays. The ancient Greeks honored their many gods with festivals that often included athletic games such as the Olympics. The Romans also had holidays in honor of their gods, and often held huge fairs to celebrate their festivals and holidays. Many of the practices that the ancient civilizations practiced on their holidays, and the holidays themselves, have come down to become the practices of modern civilizations. In this film, we will be focusing primarily on the practices and traditions of the holidays kept in America, some of which are kept also in other countries. However, we recognize that the concepts are similar, since many of the holidays around the world have their roots in paganism. A few examples include holidays such as the Bon Festival, kept in Japan, a holiday in honor of the dead ancestors, the lantern that is placed on the river being the boat to carry the spirits of the dead back to their abode in the spirit world. Also, the Festival of Lights, also called Diwali, a festival with the spiritual meaning of the awareness of the inner light, a reference to pagan mysticism, and many others are steeped in paganism. Ultimately, all the pagan festivities have their roots with the devil, the serpent, and dragon. The majority of pagan holidays were in honor of some deity or god. The traditions and decorations had significance to the honor of the pagan gods. Has this been passed on down to us? Are the holidays we celebrate today days of worship? According to Webster's dictionary, the word holiday comes from a Middle English word which comes from the Old English word holig dag, made from two words, holig and dag. Holig meaning holy, and dag meaning day. In Webster's 1828 dictionary, there is no definition for holiday. It says to see the word holy day. So we see then the very word holiday we find reference to worship. But who is it that created these holy days? It couldn't be God, for he said, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy." Could it be that all other holy days are counterfeits for the true holy day of God? We see further in Exodus and Isaiah that the Sabbath is the holiday or holy day of the Lord. We read, "And he said unto them, This is that which the Lord hath said. Tomorrow is the rest," meaning special holiday, "of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which ye will bake today, and seethe that ye will seethe, and that which remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. And if thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Lord, honorable, and shalt honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words." So if God did not create the other numerous holidays, who did? According to Cardinal Newman, temples, incense, oil lamps, votive offerings, holy water, holidays, and seasons of devotion, processions, blessings of the fields, sacerdotal vestments, the tonsure of priests, monks, and nuns, images, and statues are all of pagan origin. Though they are of pagan origin, these were adopted by the Roman Catholic Church and are now called Christian practices. The joining of pagan feasts with God's people is illustrated in the story of Baal Peor. In Numbers 25, 1 and 2, we read, "And Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. And they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods, and the people did eat, and bowed down to their gods." Balaam had been unable to curse Israel. He knew that the prosperity of Israel depended upon their observance to the law of God, and there was no way to bring a curse upon them but by seducing them to transgression. Balaam really wanted the reward and promotion offered him by Balak, and so he counseled Balak to proclaim an idolatrous feast in honor of their idol gods, and he would persuade the Israelites to attend, that they might be delighted with the music, And then the most beautiful Midianitish women should entice the Israelites to transgress the law of God and corrupt themselves, and also influence them to sacrifice to idols. This counsel succeeded, and Israel joined in the pagan festivals. When Israel joined in the festivals, they violated the first 2 commandments. The law said, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the 3rd and 4th generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments." Israel knew these commandments, yet they still chose to violate them. We too know these commandments. Do we violate them? Because of Israel's tendency to adopt idolatry, God gave them a command found in Deuteronomy 12. It says, "When the Lord thy God shall cut off the nations from before thee, whither thou goest to possess them, and thou succeedest them, and dwellest in their land, take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them, after that they be destroyed from before thee, and that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, How did these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. Thou shalt not do so unto the Lord thy God, for every abomination to the Lord which he hateth have they done unto their gods, for even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods." We have been told distinctly that we are not to worship God in the same ways that the heathens do. Interestingly enough, holidays were not observed by the early Waldensians. In Facts of Faith we read, "The Waldenses took the Bible as their only rule of faith, abhorred the idolatry of the papacy, and the main body rejected its traditions and holidays, but kept the seventh-day Sabbath, and used the apostolic mode of baptism." Their old catechism shows that they believed in justification by faith, in the grace of Christ alone, and that obedience to the 10 Commandments was the sure fruit of living faith. Perhaps the reason for this was the fact that they saw that many of the customs of the holidays came from paganism. Now, after having said this, many may argue that Paul wrote, "Let no man therefore judge you in meat, or in drink, or in respect of an holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ." Now, using this verse to defend days of pagan origin is not a correct application. The verse says, "which are a shadow of things to come." If it was a shadow of something in the future, it couldn't be a pagan holiday, because they all point to the past. For example, supposedly Easter is a memorial of Christ's resurrection, but Christ's resurrection is past, so for this verse to refer to it, the verse would have to say, "a shadow of things that have come." Obviously, it is not referring to the pagan holidays. However, the devil has many wrong ways of counterfeiting the true way. Many who are correct on the holidays fall into another deception. They use the same verse to say that they should and can keep the ancient Jewish feast days. But let us notice something of interest. All the Jewish feasts were shadows of future events when they were given. Passover met its fulfillment when Christ died, the wave sheaf when he was resurrected, the Feast of First Fruits or Harvest at Pentecost, the Feast of Trumpets when in 1833 there was a worldwide proclamation of the Second Coming, the Day of Atonement in 1844, when according to Daniel 8:14 the cleansing of the sanctuary began, and the Feast of Tabernacles points to the second coming of Christ and our time in heaven. Notice that when Paul wrote, only the Feast of Trumpets, Day of Atonement, and the Feast of Tabernacles had not met fulfillment. Now only the Feast of Tabernacles has not been fulfilled. The only possible feast you could say we are supposed to keep is the Feast of Tabernacles. We should be applying the things listed in the Day of Atonement, spiritually speaking, since we are living in the antitypical day, and it should be a continual process, not limited to one day out of the year. We can have a week-long gathering of fellow believers where we dwell in booths or tents and dedicate our lives and work to Christ. But as Paul said, not to judge in regard to this, let everyone study the subject out prayerfully, taking the Bible as their only rule of faith. It would be best to carry on this work all the time, and not limit it to the times of the feast. Remember that just as the shadow ends at the object it is a shadow of, so the days that were a shadow of things to come ended with the event they pointed to. Now for those that may think that pagan holidays are of little consequence, they should think about what pagans may think when they see we do the same things the occult does. Here is a testimony from a former witch. Witchcraft was very different in the 1960s. There were a lot fewer witches and the craft was far more secretive. At the end of that spiritually troubled decade, I was miraculously saved by the power of Jesus and his saving blood. I was also delivered from every evil spirit that lived in me and was set free. However, as I began to attend fundamental Christian churches, I realized that even there, witchcraft had left its mark. Pagan holidays and sabbats were celebrated as Christian holidays. Of course, this is not a new thought. In the time when the church was adopting the pagan practices, Faustus made an accusation to Augustine. He said, "You have substituted your agape for the sacrifices of the pagans, for their idols, your martyrs, whom you serve with the very same honors. You appease the shades of the dead with wine and feast. You celebrate the solemn festivals of the Gentiles, their calends and solstices, and to their manners, those you have retained without alteration. Nothing distinguishes you from the pagans, except that you hold your assemblies apart from them." Now, since you know that the holidays came from the occult, we will do a quick overview of the occult calendar. Some of the days on the occult calendar are of significance to our study. This particular occult calendar comes from the occult society, the Illuminati. However, the same days listed on it are also mentioned as being occult from sources in other occult religions, such as witchcraft. Now, the occult year is separated into fourths or quarters. Each section contains 13 weeks. Actually, a lot of the occult calendar is based around the number 13. In the occult, we find that the number 13 is associated with rebellion and impiety. Stan Dio is one author who explained that the number 13 had a very definite meaning. He wrote this in his book entitled Cosmic Conspiracy. 13 is the value assigned to represent Satan, the serpent, the dragon, the tempter, or rebellion. Even in the world today, many associate the age 13, when you become a teenager, with rebellion. The Bible itself states that rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. When Saul was supposed to kill and destroy all the Amalekites, but he didn't, Samuel, God's prophet, said to him, "Hath the Lord his great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices, as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, he has also rejected thee from being king." It is interesting that Saul destroyed some of the Amalekites and their things, but he kept some to sacrifice to God. Have we done the same? Have we kept some of paganism and tried to excuse it by saying it is for the Lord? Will we allow Saul's story to be our own?